Here we go. What is going on, Cover One crew? Welcome back to the show. Hope everybody's doing great out there. Before we get started, please smash that like button and hit that subscribe button as we continue to grow this new channel under the Cover One umbrella for fantasy football. You gotta love it. But what are we here for? We know what we're here for. Week number 13, waiver wire must-add players. And I get it, man. All y'all that are fighting for the final playoff spots, the final push, final 2 weeks. I got some talent for you this week that could potentially give you some points on matchup appeal and matchup play. Never give up because it's never over. I'm telling y'all, so let's dive into this week's edition of Must Add Players. So before we get started, this is your friendly reminder to get on BetUS. Use promo code COVER1 and you get 125% sign-up bonus up to $2,500 on your initial deposit. So, I mean, it is good stuff. You like betting like me? I'm telling y'all, man, get onto BetUS. Make that money. But week 13 waiver wire, let's go running backs. Let's start it off there. Kyren Williams gets the first nod of the week. And I mean, okay, the Rams are in complete disarray, but if you are really struggling for running back depth, you definitely got to put Kyren Williams on your bench. At least the PPR upside will be there. Injuries have dismantled the LA Rams, and it's not a good thing, but somebody's got to catch the balls. Someone's got to run the rock, and I think, Kyren's going to see at least a decent share of PPR upside as we get, continue down the last few weeks of the regular season. So Kyren Williams definitely is somebody you got to at least stash on your bench just in case he's going to work out and give you 10 points per week. Ty Johnson from those New York Jets does grace the list as well, only because Michael Carter has could potentially be down with an ankle injury. Definitely got to watch it as the week goes on, his health, if it is just a low ankle sprain couple weeks or if he's going to be good to go. Ty Johnson looks like he's going to be the guy to me. I know that Knight, the other running back on the list here as well, 1% ownership for both these running backs. It's going to be tough. They're going to do a dual back split, and I guarantee it. I mean, Knight got majority of the touches when Carter went down. I believe he had like 13 or 15 touches where Johnson only had like 5, but Johnson did find the end zone. He is the more explosive back, and I think Johnson will be integrated in this offense that much more. So Johnson is a decent stash if Michael Carter goes down because he's proven that he could at least find the end zone for you in those contests. Gus Edwards still rests on the board, 48%. He is back from that hamstring injury. Yes, he did fumble the rock, but he's trying to get back into the groove, and they're going to continue to feed this man touches until J.K. Dobbins does come back and is cleared to play again. So Gus Edwards right now, if J.K. is still not back this week, I think Gus Edwards still is a representative of a decent play and matchup appeal. Like I said, Knight, we just covered that, so I mean the Jets, pick your poison, watch the Michael Carter injury to see how that translates. Kenny Gainwell is on the making waves up my board, but it's so inconsistent. But he is stealing touches from a Miles Sanders, especially in the red zone. They do like to utilize all their running backs, and especially in the red zone and the way that they run the ball in Philadelphia, Kenny Gainwell has some sneaky appeal in deeper leagues. I would keep him on the watch list in others, man. Melvin Gordon, he is apparently rumored to be picked up on the practice squad of the Kansas City Chiefs, of course, because the Chiefs are just trying to stack it to win the Super Bowl once again. How much value will he have with Pacheco running the ball decently well? It's to be seen. But, I mean, if Melvin Gordon does get up to the active roster with Patrick Mahomes, he's definitely one you got to covet, man. 45% ownership. The minute he got waived by the Denver Broncos, everyone went and dropped his services. If he is available in your leagues, get him on your bench because playing with Patrick Mahomes, I could probably score a couple touchdowns. I mean, no kidding, man. Henderson now with the Jacksonville Jaguars. I forgot his first name. Darrell Henderson. There it is. Just the light bulb clicked off in my brain. But Darrell Henderson is a bench stash as well. Potential touches to be had. Yes, JaMychal Hasty did have a decent game in relief of a Travis Etienne. Etienne did say that his ankle is good to go. He's going to suit up again. Killed all of us that own him in fantasy football, but Henderson is one you got to look out for because eventually when he does get the playbook, he could potentially see some touches as well over Hasty. Jerick McKinnon, he is one. Okay, it's limited upside. Keep him on the watch list at this point, but he does possess PPR upside, and if Gordon does get hit to the active roster, then you can look far beyond what a Jerick McKinnon Washington could potentially provide you. Travis Homer does make the list only because I wonder if they're going to start sprinkling in his services just a little bit more in the pass game. We saw it last week. It could be something to keep your eye on. Still on the watch list at this point for Homer. Don't want to roster him just yet. Just telling y'all, keep your eye on that for potential matchup play and PPR upside. Alexander Madison as well, still on my board because it's only 29% ownership. All you Dalvin Cook owners, handcuff time for the fantasy playoffs. That's the only reason why he graces my list at this point. For quarterbacks, we got Deshaun Watson. He is coming back. Going to be playing his former team, the Houston Texans. Coming off his lengthy suspension, he is owned in 50.1% of leagues, still half there. So, I mean, if you've been streaming quarterbacks or are looking for an upgrade, Watson could be that guy to get you over the top in the playoffs. Yes, the rust is definitely going to be there. There's no way he's not going to have rust on his game. But if he does play decently well in that first game, shakes off the rust quickly, you could have yourself a quarterback one entering the fantasy playoffs and smiling ear to ear. Marcus Mariota has a good matchup this week. Yes, he's been, up and down all season long, but you got to play him on the matchups because that rushing upside will always be there for him. He is starting to move the ball around to all his wide receivers except for Drake London. Again, I don't get it. Zacchaeus is making waves, leads the Falcons in receiving yards, but Mariota does have a good matchup this week for streaming quarterbacks if you need a fill-in. Kenny Pickett, like I said, coming off Monday Night Football, he's looking good, and I mean, he's improving every week. This is what you want to see out of, as a talent evaluator, as myself, you want to see the progression week in, week out. You don't want to see the side steps and, 2 steps back, 1 step forward, 5 steps back, I should say. You don't want to see that, and so far, Kenny Pickett has been moving forward in a very good way. I do like what I see. Yes, it's still inconsistent. Yes, it's not top-end heavy yet. For point production, but Kenny Pickett is moving the barometer in the right direction. So I do believe that on matchup play as well for Kenny Pickett, he is a decent play if you really are struggling for quarterbacks. But I mean, if you're at that point where you're fighting for the playoff spot, you need a quarterback, you could probably find somebody better. But I do like Kenny and where it's going at this point. Jared Goff, he will give you decent production. Now with potentially Jameson Williams coming back into the mix, Jared Goff is serviceable. He's going to get you the floor of 13 to 15 points per week, even up against good defenses. Jared Goff is one of these guys that you could basically plug in almost every week. Matchup play is always better. Matt Ryan's just on the list because he can move the offense, but he is a turnover pig. So, I mean, definitely that is huge matchup play. Heineke and Mike White do round out the list. I mean, White looked good. What can you say in relief of a Zach Wilson? Will it continue? We shall see. I don't like it. I don't trust it just yet. That's why he's on the list right now on the watch list. Where Heineke, he's just serviceable guy, man. He's going to give you 15 points likely per week, so it's not a bad play at the quarterback spot, but it is thinning out at quarterback. No kidding. So Deshaun Watson is probably your go-to this week, man. Wide receivers, Treylon Burks still on the list, under 50%, 49.3. Yes, his game was not as good as it was the first time, or the 2 weeks ago, I should say, but I mean, he did fall on a fumble, King Henry fumble, and scored a touchdown, so he got you 7 there. But I mean, Treylon Burks, it's going to eventually come. He's too darn talented to be kept, in the shackles offensively, so to speak. And I mean, he is so good, 46.6 points so far on the season. And Burks is one of these guys, he at least definitely has to be on your bench, because typically we see with young rookies, the last 5 games is where they kind of separate from the pack and understand the NFL game. So if he does start popping, you want to get him on your bench, because then he is a good piece you could have and possess. Elijah Moore, he's back on the list, if you can believe it. The guy that wanted the trade, he was not getting targets. I felt bad for him. I mean, here we go. Mike White is just anybody. Flacco and White, they can feed wide receivers. Garrett Wilson's smiling today as well. But Moore is one of these guys you got to get on your bench as well, because if this offense continues to move the way they are, they're a built team that can at least compete with everybody in New York. This team is building in the right way. Zach Wilson just didn't come to pass just yet. Is he going to start any more this season? Probably not. So Mike White is your guy. At least he's able to, okay, it's against Chicago, I get it, but at least he's able to feed the ball around to all his wide receivers. At least he can go through the progressions with some consistency, and Moore is that playmaker. You just got to get the ball in his hand. He's going to make things happen. He found the end zone. Moore is definitely one we got to get back on our rosters immediately, because he could pay dividends in the fantasy playoffs. Donovan Peoples-Jones, DPJ, he gets Deshaun Watson back. He's already 84.5 points at 46% ownership. You got to get him on your roster as well. This could be somebody that pops off in a very big way. He he's proven me wrong. I was not a big fan. He has picked up his game this season. He looks very good. Darius Slayton as well, and this is path to volume, path to targets arguments. Yes, okay, the Giants have been stumbling and struggling these past couple weeks, but Slayton is the default target, number one wide receiver on this offense right now. He needs to be owned because of volume. That's it. Simple fact is that. I mean, could he give you a bust game where he's like 6 or 7 points? Absolutely. But path to volume, path to targets is always there now. DJ Chark, man, 14% ownership. He was a number one wide receiver in Jacksonville. Now he's back to the good books and healthy. I said on my Start Sit videos on Thanksgiving that DJ Chark could find the end zone. And what happened? He found the end zone. He is one to definitely covet and watch. Is it going to be consistent? Probably not. So we got to see it one more time. I don't hate keeping him on the watch list over rostering Chark at this point, but Chark is far too talented. If he does start getting targets, he's going to make plays. And Amon-Ra St. Brown dealing with a hip injury, so keep your eye on that as well. Chark could be a very sneaky play in Week 13. Sky Moore, depending on what Kadarius Toney is, Sky Moore is getting integrated in this offense in a big way. Targets are coming his way, and he is coming down with the ball. He does look very good. Still too difficult to trust for my flex, but he's starting to pick up steam as well. Keep him on the watch. Devontae Parker, Jarvis Landry, they've turned my eye enough to say we got to watch them. We got to see what they're doing week in, week out. We'll see what Parker does versus the Buffalo Bills this week. It's just the New England Patriots. They utilize all the wide receivers they have, where Jarvis Landry had a stinker of a contest because of the San Francisco 49ers' stellar defense, but he still will provide PPR upside. Landry does look healthy, so I would pick Landry over a Parker at this point, but Parker is somebody we got to keep our eyes on at this point. Isaiah McKenzie, he is just on my watch list. I know he scored, but it's one game, and it's 1 out of like 5 for him at this point in this Buffalo Bills offense. I just don't like it for fantasy. He's a very explosive player. It's just not near consistent enough. He's on the watch list for me as well. Odell Beckham Jr. getting kicked off airplanes, but I mean, he's still on my list. 37%. He signs with the club. He's just got to be on your bench at this point until he signs with someone. Apparently, he's going to be meeting with teams this week, so we shall see if it does come to pass where he finally finds a club to play for and get a jersey on his back so he can start catching passes for your fantasy team. Jameson Williams, once again, I think this is the time. If you got room, deeper leagues, potentially get him on your bench and just see. Hopefully he's going to turn out, but again, it's a big risk. Is it really going to help you in the fantasy playoffs? Maybe, maybe not, but I mean, at this point, I don't hate taking the risk if you have a big bench on your roster, man. Johnson from the tight ends. Okay, we're going tight ends. And this is a crapshoot. I mean, Johnson, he gave you 0 points from the New Orleans Saints this past week. Just god-awful. 80.4 on the season. It was horrific, man. Andy Dalton could not get his receivers the ball. The 49ers defense suffocating every option they did have. Johnson still is a top 10 tight end at this point, and he's a good streaming tight end at this point, 42.6% on the waiver wire, so there is potential. He is still there for you in good matchup appeal for streaming tight end players like me. I do it all the time. Foster Moreau gets back in the good books. Again, he is the second best tight end on the board this week, 36.8% ownership, 50 points. He scored a touchdown this past week. The Raiders offense looked a lot better than they have for a majority of the season. Derek Carr spreading the ball around. Josh Jacobs running like a damn madman. I think it could continue, and we'll see. But, I mean, the Seahawks defense is very, beatable, has a lot of holes, and that's why they were able to do a lot of damage. Hunter Henry versus the Buffalo Bills this week on Thursday Night Football. He is a sneaky play for me. The Bills do at times struggle covering the tight end spot, so I don't hate Hunter Henry this week. You could potentially see a touchdown coming from this man against the Buffalo Bills. Ty Conklin, now again with Mike White, you can see the potential here for PPR upside as well because he's going to be spreading the ball around. There's going to be lack of double teams all over the field with the amount of weapons that the Jets do possess. So Ty Conklin is back in the conversation of streaming tight ends. Evan Ingram, he lays a big-time goose egg this past week versus the Baltimore Ravens. He's just on the watch this week. I don't think he's got a great matchup this week as well. So he's got to give me at least a better contest before I can preach starting him this week. Robert Tonyan, once again, now without an Aaron Rodgers potentially this week. He's got some rib problems. So, I mean, for Jordan Love, we could see a lot of checkdowns, even though he did look pretty good throwing the ball. He got one to Christian Watson, and Watson took it to the house. But, I mean, Tonyan could be that safety blanket that we're all looking for at the tight end spot. Finally, Jordan Love, maybe he brings him back to life in fantasy football, but it's a tough trust as well. And McBride, I mean, from the Arizona Cardinals, He just took a back seat now that Marquise Hollywood Brown is back in the mix. I mean, it was Brown, it was D-Hop, and McBride was just basically watching them play. So, I mean, he's just on the watch list at this point to see if his productivity will increase. So there it is. That is week number 13. Must-add players on the waiver wire. And I mean, yes, 2 weeks left to get into the fantasy football playoffs. If you are one of the bottom feeder teams that are trying to make a last spot and push, there are players that we could get on matchup play this week to help you get over the top. Never give up because it's not over until the fat lady sings. I'm telling y'all. But nevertheless, as always, don't forget to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, jump in those comments, give me your thoughts, and we'll see you next time. I am out.